It's October, y'all, and firearms season for elk hunters. An incredible, magical time that can go from frustration to elation in a single moment. But for so many hunters hitting the hills, there is a plethora of questions out there. Are elk still rutting? Is calling still effective? What are the best times of the month to hunt? How do I find elk when rifle hunting in October? Guys and gals, it's that time. It's October. Let's talk elk hunting. Those topics, along with our ElkBros shout-outs and questions from our ElkBros Mailbox. So, my friends, pull up a chair, adjust your volumes just right, and welcome to Blue Collar Elk Hunting.
Welcome to Blue Collar Elk Hunting, brought to you by ElkBros.com, with your host Gilbert Ornelas and elk hunting coach Joe Gilly. You want to hunt elk, and they live to hunt elk. Their goal is to share with you what they have learned grinding it out for over 35 seasons, doing what they love. So come on into camp and set a spell. Welcome to Blue Collar Elk Hunters.
Hello there, everyone. If it's your first time with us, glad to have you. Hope you enjoy our show. And for those blue collar hunters following our show and grinding it out with us every week, welcome back to Elk Camp. I'm Gilbert Ornelas, your host for your show, coming to you from Spring, Texas, and from Katy, Texas, one of the Venezuelan mafia himself. And he calls the leader of the Venezuelan mafia.
Go. Now we're talking.
Gonzalez is in the house. And from Cimarron, New Mexico, the one and only WWJGD. What would Joe Gillia do in the house?
Oh, my Lord, man. You're going to get me struck by lightning, bro. Okay, I'm just telling you, man. Don't be pulling that stuff. Hey, and Chav's not here tonight. Everybody, don't freak out. Chav's not here tonight. Chav's not here because Joe is in quarantine. I just come down out of the mountains, and I'm with a lot of people from out of state that I don't know. They're not my brothers here. And we got a wedding coming up this weekend. And y'all, listen to this. 1 year ago, almost to this day, my brother Chav was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer. 10 months ago, we didn't think he was going to live. 10 months ago, we didn't think he was ever going to walk again. And this Saturday, Leroy Chavez is going to walk his daughter down the aisle in this yard and see his daughter get married, man. And
ooh, buddy, praise Jesus.
Oh, man.
That's answered prayer, Joe.
Absolutely, and it's a testament of all the effort and everything you guys as a family have done for him, and it's unbelievable and admirable for sure.
And you don't hear this a lot out of me, but it is a testament of the power and the miracle of God. And I truly believe that. I have seen it, and I won't go a whole lot into it, but I can just tell you, man, we've had a lot of conversations in the last year, and I've seen incredible things I never thought would happen. So
you betcha.
So that's
it's amazing what a little bit of oil from Texas will do.
Oh yeah, man, absolutely. And we've got it's just going to be a small ceremony of close family here in our yard, and but with people coming. You know, my wife, when I was coming out of the mountain, she said, "You stop in Raton, get a COVID test." so I am on house quarantine right now, and
you're a bit roughed up, man. Not only in quarantine, we also got the rash going on, man.
I didn't bring that up, Joe.
Oh, my Lord, man!
I did.
Throw a brother under the bus, man.
So I had to. So
everybody, all right, so here's the deal. So you heard there's a wedding in our yard. My niece, who is an incredible individual, no prima donna in this girl at all, man. She wanted it in the backyard with the mountains back there, you know, the beautiful color of the trees and everything. So we decided we were going to go get a whole bunch of leaves that are turning color, and we were going to put them along the aisle for her to walk on. So we went up in the canyon, and and me and Loretta went up there, and man, I tell you what, man, near the oak stands, there was little small growths of oak coming out of the ground, had the most beautiful turning red leaves. I started picking those leaves, and I started picking those leaves, and I made the most incredible bouquet. I will show you photo. It is beautiful, right? So the next day we're at the restaurant, me and Loretta, and all of a sudden I look down, something itching on my wrist, and I look down, I got these blisters on my arm, and I looked at my other arm, and all right, I can find elk, y'all.
Damn sure can. I'm a testament to that.
But I could not tell you what poison ivy looks like.
Or oak or sumac or any of the other poisons.
I can tell you now,
Joe.
Bro. I am plumb from my ankles because I wore shorts that I was walking in that stuff, man. Wore shorts. So my arms and my legs, I am friggin' blistered right now, man.
Joe, I'm sorry to throw you under the bus, bro, but I mean, I told you, you're going to have to keep me a little bit on leash tonight, just because,
And what I want everybody to know out there is our man, even stricken with this horrible rash all over him, it did not keep him out of the elk woods. Joe, 60 bulls later, they are still walking the earth up there.
Yeah, and for those of us who've got an accent not only in talking but also listening, that is not 1616. It's actually 60.
60 bulls.
60 bulls, man. And when we talk 5 days, the amount of bulls that we stir up on that place.
That's 12 bulls a day, Joe.
Man. Oh, yeah, easy.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah. Easy.
I told you I passed geometry. I got regular math, too.
But you said you cheated.
I did, but some of it stuck.
At the same time, for somebody to go, I want a mature bull of this kind of size, and I'm willing to go without if I don't find it. Well, you know what? You got to absolutely.
Been there, done that. Yep. How many years did I go? Not passing on a lot of things, man.
Yeah, absolutely, man.
We're all in different mindsets,
areas of our career.
Hey, to thy own self be true, right?
Absolutely, man.
There we go.
Not about the harvest, about the hunt.
I've had times when we've tagged out on the first day, and you're like, God, I wish we were hunting,
Exactly. Did you shoot much footage while you were out, Joe?
I did get one. I got one bull on that we brought into 40 yards, man.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah, it was kind of cool. But it's funny, most of the time, you when you're in that mindset as a guide, you forget kind of that stuff. So
for sure.
Hey, guys, guess what? This is our 90th episode.
Unbelievable.
for
98 episodes. 89
podcast.
Episodes ago, we were like, huh? Man, it's old hat now, Joe.
Yeah, can you believe it? Huh?
Crazy, man.
So,
unbelievably blessed.
Remember we were like, oh, we're in 25 U.S. cities. Now we're in we got listeners in over 6,000 U.S. cities. And now we have, get this, people, when we talk about our shout outs, I always ask people, is it something that you like, dislike? And man, almost 90% people really enjoy our shout outs. And
sure.
And proof to that is today's #1 listening city hammered the listens, and I don't know if they called people and said
they had an ElkBros party, man.
Yeah, we got to listen. They were like, we're going to be the top listening city, so that's going to be coming up in a few minutes. But here's what I want to talk about before we jump down there is we are 10 away from our 100th episode. And listen, y'all out there, listeners, guys, that is going to be a milestone for us, and we want to do something special. And we're going to dedicate it to who, guys? Who are we going to dedicate this to, huh?
The grinders.
We're going to put it out to the grinders, baby.
Out to our grinders. And you're asking yourself, I can hear it in your head. You're going, but how? So here's how we're going to do that. 2 of our listeners are going to be joining us on our 100th episode, sharing your elk hunting journey of 2020, whether you have punched your tag or you still have a hunt coming up.
Your preparation, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, your journey, whatever that journey has been, we're going to talk about that. Whatever part of that, we want you to join us, and we're going to give you heck. We're going to have a good time.
For sure.
It's going to be. Maybe we'll have to unleash Luis a little bit. Maybe we'll unleash Gilbert just a little bit. Not too much. Just a little bit of rope, right?
Yeah.
And so
put me on a little choke chain.
So now we've said, but how? And I can hear it in their head. Can you guys hear it in their head right now? It's like, well, who will that be? Right? I can hear it, right?
Well, how'd you win?
Yeah. You win a new car. No, that's not it. So here's what's going to happen, y'all. If you are interested in joining us on our 100th episode, you write into info@elkbros.com. That's info, like we always say, at elkbros.com, and tell us about your journey this year and why you would like to join us for our 100th episode. And then we will be selecting 2 grinders, and we're going to give some free gear to those others that write in as well. Not everybody, a certain number, those people that really impress us, and we'll throw those names out there. And there's going to be a whole lot more on this later on. I don't want to use up all of our time because we got a lot to do tonight here. So I just wanted to throw that out there. Oh, also, if you have a special topic you'd like us to discuss on a 100th episode, we would love to hear it. Remember, send all letters and topic suggestions to info@elkbros.com. All right, man.
That is way cool, Joe. That's very great idea.
Wait, Joe. It's going to be epic to have some guys that have never really done this before.
Guys or gals.
Guys or gals. That's right. We get to send it down to them and everything. That'll be straight up awesome. Guys, absolutely. You know what time it is. Time for the ElkBros shout out. If you're new to our show, these are just shout outs to a few cities with the most listeners topping our charts this week.
And we're going to hit those grinders giving us those incredible Apple reviews. Okay. We've got to do that. Dusty Davis, man, Dusty, thank you for that incredible review. Alan Williams of Clinton, North Carolina. Jeff Bigelow out of Utah, Jake Ellis from Colorado, and we have Stuart from North Carolina. And y'all, I've got to on Stuart's, I got to read this to you. We're going to share a little bit. I don't usually do this, but I wanted you to hear this. Elk Bros, thank you so much for your wisdom and guidance that you have imparted to me through this podcast. Spurred by challenging life events, I made a decision to pursue my dream of chasing after elk with my bow. Upon that decision, I buckled down and listened to every podcast and read everything I possibly could to better prepare myself for the elk woods out west. I would listen to you guys while rucking with a weighted pack and soaked up every minute of it. Long story short, I made the solo drive out west from North Carolina this September 2020 and was able to come back home with elk meat in my cooler.
What?
All solo,
so cool.
DIY, OTC archery on public land. I could not have done it without the help of you guys.
Wow,
dude. Who are dedicated to helping others become more successful.
Congrats.
I honestly cannot thank you guys enough. Continue the great work. God bless, Stuart.
My respects, man. That's hardcore. Do it yourself right there, man. Unbelievable. Congrats,
Isn't that awesome?
Stuart, man. That's pretty cool.
Tip of the
Loaded
ElkBros
up my truck and I'm headed out west.
Headed out west.
Unbelievable,
I got
man. That's a heck of a story.
On and he puts the smackdown on some elk out
He's a
west.
North Carolina boy. It's going to happen. That's what I'm telling you.
Oh, yeah.
And
boys from the hills, they can get it done, Joe.
Yeah, here we go.
All right, guys. Now for our top listening city. Luis, rock and roll.
Yes, sir. So today's top listening city was named after the lake that it surrounds and was the original home of the Skycomish natives that gather berries on the lakeside and hunted for wild game. The big event for this city is the annual summer festival at the end of July, Aquafest. This 3-day event includes a boat parade, carnival rides, a car show, circus, and an Ironman triathlon.
Yep.
Lake Stevens, Washington.
Yeah. Lake Stevens, Washington. Yeah, in the house, man.
The West Coast showing up all the time.
Look, it's 3 days in July. I think it got canceled this year, something like the 26th, the 26th, 27th, 28th, right around that time in July, y'all. So, man, I tell you what, if they missed it this year, look, all y'all that want to go to Washington State, I would not miss that Aquafest because it's going to be bang up celebration next year.
I bet.
Hey Joe, this magic beverage is actually make me read a lot better. Man.
No, Bo, you sounded horrible. You
What?
think.
Are you kidding me, dude? This is like it just flew. It's just like people on the podcast are gonna be, who's this, American guy that came out of nowhere? Where's Luis at?
He got something he's smoking too, Joe. He ain't just drinking.
He's a miracle in his own mind, man. In his own mind. Okay, if you don't get a flat tire while visiting on our next top listening town, just west of Portland, make sure you wave at a roadside attraction called Harvey the Rabbit. Now, listen what I'm saying there. If you don't want to get a flat tire while visiting here, you had better wave at Harvey the Rabbit. Who the heck is Harvey the Rabbit? Harvey the Rabbit stands 26 feet in height and weighs 25,000 pounds. Legend has it that not waving at this particular fiberglass statue risks your chance of getting a flat tire. Even though the name of this top listening town is spelled like the universal Hawaiian greeting, it is not pronounced the same by Oregon locals. So I'm going to try to, I don't know if I can say it like an Oregon local. I've tried, but I think it's more aloha, not aloha. Aloha.
Aloha, Oregon.
Yep. Aloha, Oregon.
Yeah, it seems like you need a little bit of this drink, man, to be able to pronounce all that stuff a little better.
Man, I'm telling you, Joe, the West Coast just keeps popping up, man.
Oh,
Washington, Oregon, Colorado, Nevada, they just keep popping up.
We need one of them Harvey the Rabbits around here, but we're going to have to. Because I got.
That's what Cimarron needs, but it's big heart standing out there. Joe, this next city is known for its paper-making history and is an important location for the cranberry industry. Natives call the area Atwagam, which means two-sided rapids. One of the local attractions is to take the Glacial Lake Cranberries March Tour, which shows how cranberries have been raised and harvested in the area for over 145 years. And in Wisconsin Rapids, Wisconsin.
145 years.
Yeah.
Man, they've been.
Atwagam. Really? Atwagam? Is that?
Bro, when I saw that, I was like, I was waiting for you, man. I was like,
Atwagam.
Atwagam. Two-sided rapids.
Words, Joe. Big words and big equations. I got them right here.
Wisconsin Rapids, y'all. Thanks for listening. We love having all y'all listeners over there.
You betcha.
All right, so hear me out. Did you like parks? Because if you do, this city southeast of Phoenix is plumb loaded with parks. There's the Desert Breeze Park with vintage train rides, or Veterans Oasis Park with wetland and a Sonoran desert landscape. Nicknamed the Silicon Desert because of the presence of the computer chip manufacturer Intel, this top listening city was named after Dr. Alexander John Chandler, the first veterinary surgeon in Arizona Territory. It's also noted for, now get this, its annual Ostrich Festival. Chandler, Arizona.
Ostrich Festival. Man, they must raise a bunch of ostrich emus there.
Ostrich Festival.
I don't know what that would entail.
And I guarantee you,
did you get the pun intended there? I don't know what would entail.
Yeah, I got you.
An ostrich festival? Entail, boo.
No tail.
Yeah, but
come on,
I guarantee you, old Dr. Chandler there, that first veterinary surgeon, I guarantee he worked on a lot of folks.
Oh, absolutely, man. Not just animals, man.
Oh, yeah.
And look, ostrich is good. I ate it when I was in South Africa. I was like, I ain't eating no ostrich till I took a bite of it, and I was like, damn, give me some more of that ostrich. That was good. So it was
Can't
real
be taking
good.
Gilbert to the zoo anymore, man. He's like,
man, I get slobbering looking at everything at the zoo.
Up next, our top listening location is actually the largest suburb of Spokane, Washington. And for all those dads out there, it's these folks here that are responsible for all those incredible ties your kids have been giving you all these years. Yep, this area claims to be the birthplace of Father's Day. So I want you to listen to this because this was awesome to me. It was a young Sonora Dodd was her name. While listening to a Mother's Day sermon, Sonora was inspired to create a day to recognize great fathers like her dad, William Smart. So a Civil War veteran who raised Sonora and her 5 brothers after his wife died during childbirth.
Wow.
So think about at the time this was, Civil War vet, right?
Tough.
So that kind of gives you an idea of the time and age of Sonora. For the next, not 5 years, not 10 years, not even 20 years, for the next 60 years, Sonora advocated for Father's Day to become a national holiday. And in 1966, President Lyndon B. Johnson signed a proclamation calling for the 3rd Sunday in June to be recognized as Father's Day. Just 6 years later, President Richard Nixon made Father's Day, because of Sonora's 60 years of dedication, a permanent holiday. Spokane Valley, Washington. Yeah.
Spokane Valley.
Thank you, Spokane.
Valley.
Hey, now, quick question, Joe.
it.
I'm just getting a little technical here. So her dad's name was William Smart. How come she was Sonora Dodd?
Well, her Dodd was her name now. So when she was young,
Oh,
she
after she got married, I got you.
Right.
I got you.
Yeah. So I think
she was at it for 60 years.
Yeah. So it was probably Sonora Smart Dodd. You know, that's pretty funny. Smart. She was smart, wasn't she? You got to give it to her, huh?
Joe, before we get into our content today, I'd like to give a shameless plug for our elk hunting academy again. It's one of the I've gone through it a bunch. It's one of the best I've ever seen. You guys that are learning how to elk hunt and really learning how to call and have scenarios that you can set up in, there isn't any finer content out there in the country. Y'all go to our website at www.elkbros.com and check out our base camp elk hunting camp. It is unbelievable. I think everybody
have you been
like
looking at it, Gilbert? Huh?
I have, absolutely. And listen, we're growing here at Elk Bros. We're trying to grow all facets of us, from social media on. You guys go to our Instagram page and hit us up. We love talking back to our listeners and conversing with them. And look, we're growing our YouTube page as well. So y'all get on our YouTube page. The Mafia and myself and Joe, we're gonna start putting a whole lot more content on there. Not just the podcast, but we'll have some more hunting content that you guys can look at, and some of it's going to be hilarious too. So y'all go to YouTube and check us out there, Elk Bros on our YouTube channel.
Awesome, man. So
you bet.
It's that time. It's October, Halloween, trick or treat, right? And smoke sticks are in the hills, y'all. So
buddy, it is smoking hot too.
Yeah. So let's talk about that. Oh man, and October is such a how do you say that about that month, man? I mean, it is so bipolar.
Magical.
Times, man. Yeah, it can be frustrating. It can be magical. It can be dead. It can be hot. And we're going to talk about those reasons why. And we've been getting a lot of questions about that. So we're going to throw a lot of these in here. Like the first thing that people ask is, are elk still rutting in October?
Yes.
Absolutely. Absolutely, they are. Yeah, and
maybe as strong as they ever will be.
Well, so if you go by, guys, if you go by like how it's supposed to be, I put that in quotation marks.
Equinox.
So generally those herd bulls, I mean, everything, I mean, right now it's in from that October 1st to about October 8th is violent, man. That's when everything gets broke off horns, elk get rut killed. I mean, it just goes crazy. And then right around the 8th to 11th, supposedly those herd bulls start to split off. And I can tell you that that can happen earlier and can happen later for a lot of different reasons. And I, being on the ranch and where I guide, I get a chance to really get a great take on elk this time of year. And you're going to go out there and you're going to see some cows without a herd bull all by themselves. And people are like, what the heck is going on there? And then you're going to see a group of cows with a small herd bull. basically a satellite, right?
Mm-hmm.
Probably lesser than some of those satellites. And then you're going to see cows that are going to have, there'll be a herd of maybe your 20, 30 with a big herd bull, with a giant herd bull. So these are all different situations that are occurring at this time of year, depending on a lot of variables, like how many mature bulls are in the area, right? What's the bull to cow ratio in a certain area? Because if you got a low bull to cow ratio and there's not a lot of competition, and you have like just a few mature bulls, well, those cows are going to get bred pretty efficiently, pretty early. Possibly if it's that low of numbers, if it's larger numbers, it's not going to be that efficient because there's not enough big herd bulls out there. And so what you're going to have with that is you're going to have a second estrus that's going to that's going to really go off. So guys, I want you to know is remember that the rut is not an overall area phenomenon. It is according to the variables of different, not just regions, but
herds.
So when you talk about variables, Joe, obviously the main variable there would be the equinox, right? And then if you were to kind of rank the additional variables after that, I mean, what are we talking about? We're talking temperature, moon phase. Are we talking?
So excellent question. So let's do this. Let's say equinox. Elk are going to rut in that time, and no matter what, they are rutting. If you are not hearing rutting action, then you are not where you can hear it, because it is happening. That equinox is what controls that. If those animals
just think about our hunt. Just think about our hunt this year, Joe. We weren't hearing anything. We dropped over 150 yards in another little canyon, and it was going boom, lit up like the Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation, right?
I'm not able to tell you how many times I've been in elk screaming nuts, gone over the ridge to talk to a hunter, ain't heard nothing all day. Right.
Exactly.
So it means you're not there, because Luis, those elk have to breed and have those calves by a certain time of year, or they're not going to be able to get big enough to survive.
It's a survival thing.
It's a survival thing. It has to happen, man. Right. So, but what occurs? You hit an equinox. So let's hit the next question you said. Moon phase has nothing to do with it. Heat has nothing to do with it. Absolutely nothing. All it does is it make animals maybe a little bit more lethargic at a certain time of day, make them want to be in the trees earlier. You know, it happened to us, right? In this last rifle hunt, full moon, right? So bulls are screaming all night, but they didn't start sometimes till 11 o'clock because they waited. It was hot during the day. They waited till it cooled off. They got a full moon. They can be out all night long. You know, they're just like a bunch of guys at a party, man. They can be out all night long.
When the ladies come out.
Yeah. So what other factors then would impact when that rut is taking place then?
So
other than the equinox?
What impacts
how many cows that come in? How many
is
cows
the bull to cow ratio, and also the number of mature bulls versus young bulls. So if you have a solid group of mature bulls, they're very efficient at breeding the cows, okay? And so they're going to breed most of those cows in that first pop, in that first estrus, in that first cycle. If you don't have a lot of mature bulls, and that's when you see one herd bull with 30 or 40 cows, right? When you see that herd bull with 30 or 40 cows, instead of groups of 15, you know, multiple
10.
bulls with groups of 15 and stuff, that shows you don't have a number of mature bulls. They're not able to kick him off that. And they're going to have a hard time even lining themselves out, because that bull, there is no way he can breed all of those cows. He's just not able to do it. A cow is bred by 4 to 6 bulls when she goes into estrus, man, and she's only in less for 24 hours, right? And what happens is generally the older bulls come in, the older cows come in first, and then the younger ones. And it's kind of
makes sense. So I guess in a way what you're saying is that cows could potentially come into estrus a couple times during the same breeding season.
You bet.
So they came to estrus, nothing happened. They come back to estrus again, so for a second opportunity. So nature is pretty much giving them a second chance to reproduce.
And they can come in a third time as well, man. And the hope is, the hope. Now, that's the other thing that affects herds later on is if cows are breeding later like that, if there's multiple estruses, that means that there's going to be multiple drops of young. And so what you have when that happens is it's easier for predators. To then take out if they take out 10% of the calves every time a group drops, then instead of them dropping altogether and losing 10%, right? It really hurts the amount of the herd. So all of these dynamics happen, man. And
pretty cool.
And it can happen from one area because there are some cows in an area that maybe that they were in a feed area, but not that many because the feed couldn't hold them. So if it has to do with that as well. If an area can only feed so many head, other ones will move out of there. They're not going to starve themselves to death. They've got to get in a situation where they can drop a healthy calf, right? So what happens is then sometimes a large number of those cows will end up in areas that have better feed, more feed for a larger group. So you're definitely there going to have more bulls to work that group there if the bulls are available. So when you hear this, there's a lot of dynamics. So when we ask are elk rutting in October, think about this. Not all of them come in at the same time, right? So some of them are going to come in later after that first equinox, right around that October 1st time possibly. Or if they came in early, let's say they came in early September and weren't bred, now they're going to come in that October. That's going to be that second phase.
So if you were to actually give a window of what you think the beginning of potential rut is until the end of potential rut is, it would be what are we talking about here? Mid-September to mid-October?
Prime time.
Yeah, no, we talked.
Prime time. I think prime time crazy elk rut is anywhere from right around beginning around that 12th to 15th until about September until right about the 8th to 11th of October. And it can be a shorter window. It can be a little bit extended, or it can end up being a second estrus. Because what happens is those big bulls that waited in the wings all those times, because they understand they're older, to survive that winter, they've got to get in, do their breeding, get out and recover and eat, right? Okay. So what happens is, and this is what I saw, y'all, for you guys that are hunting rifle right now, here's what you're going to see. If you chase a bugle, if you're out, and we're going to talk about the best times to hunt elk in October, but you're going to see that the big herd bulls have dropped off. Now, have they disappeared? No. What they've done is they've dropped off to the side. They're letting those small satellites come in, keep the cows herded together, and then if they come in estrus, then he'll go in.
Bull comes in, displays them out, takes the opportunity, and then leaves.
So it's almost like
fights.
It's almost like tag team WWF, man. It's like, bro, I'm done for a while, man. You go in and fight for a while, right? So then that other guy comes in, tries to keep it together. He hasn't had to do all the work that old bull has for those days. He gets off. He's eating, but he's in the wings. He's already doing his eat phase, man. So when we talk
who knows,
about,
maybe the young guy that's left with them for a little bit gets an opportunity to sneak something in.
He does.
Well, and again, but you got to remember, it's not him that determines it. It's the cow.
It's the cow.
It's the cow that determines it. So
interesting.
There's a lot of things. There's a lot of, when you start really looking at it, man, there's a lot going on there. So
very cool.
The other question was then, and this leads right into it, the best times to hunt elk in October. Grinders tuning in, thank you for listening to the Blue Collar Elk Hunting Podcast. Our goal is to share our knowledge and help you flatten that learning curve so that you too can have some of the very same incredible experiences that have given all of us here at ElkBros a lifetime of memories. If you like what you hear or see, you can get all of this information plus so much more from our Base Camp Elk Hunting Training Camp, the first in a series of online courses from our Blue Collar Elk Academy. Our Base Camp Training Camp allows me to use my coaching style and share almost 40 years of elk hunting experiences successfully hunting elk on public lands, as well as over 20 years guiding hunters of all ages and experience levels. This course will be like nothing you have ever experienced in concept and structure, using success-based coaching techniques that will elevate your confidence and skill sets. Our camp will prepare you specifically from that final moment most in your control, those final minutes or seconds the elk is in front of you, backwards through each step and level, allowing you to see, visualize, understand, and relate every coaching point to what lies ahead, the next step, the next thought process, the next success. Because y'all, you've already been there. You know what it looks like. By tapping my 30 years of teaching and coaching experience, our camps are developed considering multiple learning modes with text, visuals, audio, as well as video. And Base Camp will benefit those new to elk hunting all the way to the 10 to 15 year vet. So if you are looking for that one thing to help you fill that tag this year, invest in the most important piece of equipment there is, you and your elk hunting knowledge. You can find the Blue Collar Elk Hunting Academy and the Base Camp Training Camp at ElkBros.com. That's ElkBros.com. Keep dreaming of the screaming, believing in achieving, and most of all, keep grinding. Gilbert, when would you say the best time to hunt elk in October is?
Anytime. If you can get in the woods, anytime. Look, that first week is so magical, Joe.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, from the 1st to the 11th, it's I'm telling you, I've been in the woods and it is unbelievable. I've had a smoke pole and a rifle, but I'm gonna tell you right now, it doesn't get any better. It can actually be pretty hard because you got so many eyes on you.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
You got all those eyes, all those cows, and everything, and the good thing is if you can get within 250, 300 yards, most every rifle that's made to elk hunt with, and you're proficient with it, you're gonna harvest you an elk because you're gonna get close. You know.
Well, when I have somebody that asks me the best time to hunt elk in October, the thing that I want to do is I want to quantify that, and by saying, what elk are you targeting, right?
Yeah.
Are you hunting cows? Are you hunting any bull? Are you hunting mature bulls? Are you hunting spike bulls? Because we got people with all the above, right?
You bet.
Yeah. So, early on, and we already talked about this, if you're hunting cows early on in October, then just go follow those bugles, man.
Exactly.
Yeah, you follow those bugles, you're gonna find some cows. And it's the same thing. It's always food, food, food. And I'm not able to tell you enough of that. The food will change from where they're at. Especially it's been dry all across the West, right? So sometimes some of these areas that are a little higher up right now that are still green are getting some of that. Some of those areas in those river areas that still have water in there are some of the best feed, especially if it goes and flattens out instead of having a real hard. If you're looking on a topo and you're looking at a river area that has steep elevation, you're not going to get a lot of that water spreading out. But if you go and you see water meandering and you start seeing those type of meanders that go real wide in flatter areas, that's going to be better grass. That moisture is going to spread better. Those are areas you want to look for those animals in there, right? Because it's going to naturally get better.
Yeah,
right?
those parks that are going to be closer to that big timber exit where they can get to the trees, those are going to be big places that got good grass and if it's got water nearby, that's even a bigger plus. I mean, so they're slaves to their bellies this time of year, Joe.
Absolutely. And you know what? I'm pretty much consigned to the fact that you want to find elk, find the feed, right? Now, there's a different time when bulls are bachelor up that they're doing some things, but those cows have got to stay on. So, and a lot of times for the times we are hunting, Those cows are key. They're key for you to find the bulls. The bulls are key for you to find the cows, right? So things like that. But if you're the best time to hunt elk in October, cows, I would say if you've keyed in on the feed, you know where those feed are, is just any time in October. I mean, they're going to be in big groups. Yeah, and they got split off, and as those bulls start to peel off later on, they're going to get into even bigger groups, right? Okay. So it can be feast and famine with the cows later on, but when you find them, there's going to be a bunch of them. Any bull, I say any bull is pretty much all of October, because you're going to hear bugles just about any time in October. Now, are you going to hear
all times of the day?
Yeah.
All times of the day too, Joe. I've heard them bugle all day in October.
Yeah, but
all day.
But I've heard them too, where they do, like if there's a full moon, they bugle all through the night, and they're already on the ridge right at daylight. And as soon as they get to their bedding area after going all night like that, they'll shut up at 9 o'clock, and then they'll start up again, maybe 11, 12 noon, when a lot of people have given up and gone back to take a nap.
To camp.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so, your midday stuff, man, like Joe always preaches when we're archery hunting, your midday stuff when you got the full moon out, you guys don't discount that and go back, get you a nap, take you a nap in the woods and hang out and listen, because they're going to show themselves eventually and let you know where they're at.
Yeah. And the only thing I would tell you though is if it's really hot and you've been doing some midday stuff and you're not hearing anything, conserve your energy at that time, and use the cooler part of that day and figure out how those animals and where they're coming out, and then they start to move again. So like we've had real unseasonably hot days this October. Man, today was just hot as could be, right?
Really?
Oh man, it's crazy.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, I'm outside in shorts, man. It's crazy.
Yeah, I saw you today in shorts. I was like, what in the world? On September.
There might be other reasons why he's wearing shorts, too.
Okay. I was leading into that.
But what about
September the 9th? There was 3 inches of snow on the ground up there, man.
What about mature bulls in October? For me, it's the beginning of October and the very end of October for mature bulls.
Yeah.
And why? The beginning, what's happening, man?
Wide open, buddy. Like they're
rutting like crazy, right?
Oh, yeah.
At the end of it, hopefully, they might not have come out of their holes yet for recovery, but those guys are having to eat, man. So when they do split off, they're going to go someplace and disappear and recover. And that's after they've quit shading the herd. Do you know what I mean by shading the herd?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Absolutely. Keep mirroring the herd.
Yeah.
No, go ahead and finish explaining that concept, because I don't know what shading is.
So what I'm saying is there's a point where they drop off again because there's a chance for more estrus and cycles to come in, but they don't want to keep working to tend the herd.
Right. They're just keeping an eye on them.
Yeah, so they just shade, and man, as soon as one comes in, he's going to hear other bulls going off. Other bulls are going to go off, or he's going to catch that scent, and he can move in and take care of business.
So my question was more around, I mean, I understand the difficulties that there may be when trying to get a mature bull, especially when he's in the middle of a herd, because he's surrounded by all the eyes, and then is there an advantage whenever that bull kind of goes out and sideways and starts shading a herd just to recover?
Yeah.
Now he's not in the middle of the herd. Is it easier now to access that bull because he's not in it?
But what happens? All right,
he's harder to find. He's harder to find.
He is, but he isn't. And I'll talk about where to find them, because you just can't look the same way. You can't start chasing bugles, because when you chase the bugles, you're actually chasing that smaller bull. Okay, if you want that big mature bull. So what you've got to do at this time is, wherever these guys are still with cows and rutting, you want to start checking those. I call them ridge bottoms, but they're not like when you have drainages, and I'm going to talk about this in finding. We're kind of getting ahead of ourselves, but they are going to be off the side in areas where they can get good feed, and they're just going to walk and feed where they can hear what's going on. They're going to hear the bugling, and they're going to shade, and they'll be able to catch a scent, and they'll know, right?
Is it fair to say they'll be more silent?
Oh, yes. Yeah. Yeah. They might not even say anything.
Very fair to say that, yeah.
So
Almost
that's what I
silent.
mean. That's what I mean. You're not chasing bugles, you know. But if a cow comes in heat, and I mean, it can set them off, right? We actually killed one of the largest bulls on the ranch on October 24th one year because of a cycle that came in. And this bull heard what was coming on, came in, got in the group. And, you know, you say there's a lot of eyes that hurts it, but remember, it's a rifle. So we're able to shoot 200-300 yards. And
very good point.
yeah.
I keep thinking of the bow mentality.
Right. So with the rifle mentality, it's different. The eyes are still there, especially if you're moving through trees trying to get a shot. If it's in the open, it's a whole lot easier on that. Okay. And if you're, and the last one would be spike bulls. And spike bulls, best time to hunt them in October is, I would say for spike bulls really is, again, I would probably say just about any time if you're calling, or any time that the herd is split off and you can find the herd. I mean, spike bulls want to be a part of something. They'll come into you screaming bugles. They'll come into you cow calling early on.
They're about as dumb as a bag of hammers.
So, I mean, quick question here on herd sizes, or I guess I'm just kind of thinking in percentages, right? I mean, if you're on an average herd size, what percentage of cows, what percentage of mature bulls, and what percentage of spike bulls do you think? And I'm just thinking, okay, if I'm a hunter, you know, if I want to increase my chances of, you know, obviously cows is going to be the highest percentage, but, you know, spike bulls and mature versus mature bulls percentage wise, what's normally more like, I don't know, easiest to see?
So
bigger
think
numbers.
So think about bull to cow ratio, right? So the lower that number is, the more competition there is. So if there's one bull, if there's one bull to every 2 cows, for example, and I know a place that's like that because I guide on it, one bull to every 2 cows. That is an incredible ratio. That's going to be a lot of bulls. It's going to be a lot of competition. It's going to be a lot of fighting.
Correct.
Okay, all of that. Now you take that up to where in most places, if you have one bull to 25 cows, that's considered a good ratio. But that's giving you an idea now, right? That's giving you an idea. Of
and when you say bull, you mean any bull?
Any bull.
Well, any bull. Right.
Any bull.
Right.
And then, and again, so you're saying 1 to 25, that's still a good ratio.
If the area is holding elk, man. And what you can do is you can look at the total herd number. Like I looked at one unit in Colorado that had 5,000 elk in that unit, right? So think 5,000 elk and think 1 to even 30 and start doing the math. That's quite a few bulls in that area, right? So
what do you reckon it's the ratio where we hunt?
I could not tell you right now, bro. I couldn't tell you. I would say it's 1 bull to every 260 cows.
Yeah.
I just wanted.
I was gonna be like 1 in 500, man. See y'all later.
Oh man, yeah. Sorry, y'all, man.
Joe,
We just
we're having a little fun with everybody.
Yeah,
Joe, you know, I've had some epic trips, and I have called some of the biggest bulls I've ever called in you know, leading into your next little subject here. I've called some of the biggest bulls I've ever called in October for some rifle hunters and for some muzzleloader hunters that I've guided. And I'm telling you, man, and they don't, the big bulls don't say much. They won't hardly even say a word when they come in. But is calling effective? You better believe it. It's effective.
Oh yeah.
You know.
Yeah, especially, you know, again, guys, lover before fighter.
Yeah,
you know, because there are guys
I never
walking
made a
around.
bull sound.
Yeah.
I never made a bull sound. All cows.
Yeah.
All cow sounds.
Yeah. And that doesn't mean you can't use location bugles. We use them all the time. But, you know, if you really want to get them to where you can see them, those cow calls really are effective in there. So if you are, and I really, maybe it's just because I'm ingrained with how I work. I pretty much don't change my tactics in that time. You know, I'm still, because there's a time during September I'm calling and there ain't nothing responding verbally, but they're coming in, right? Well, the same thing happens later on afterwards, man.
You bet.
You know?
You bet.
So you've got to, if you're going to call, don't go out there with that attitude, that you're just pissing in the wind. That's the only way I could say it, I guess, man. If you got to be invested, if you're going to call, be invested in your calling and give it time and pay attention and understand that animals respond without giving you a verbal call back, right? Okay.
That was one of the things I did learn, Joe, is a lot of those bulls, those bigger bulls that come in silent, they don't come in right away. They actually are real cautious about coming into an opening, and most of the time we were, on edges of wood lines looking into parks, and they would come in real cautious, like almost like they had just appeared out of the ground because they came in so cautious, right? But they were definitely looking for where that cow is,
Well, and the beauty of it with the rifle is now your setup is just the opposite of what you did with archery, where you wanted a tight setup in archery where they couldn't see anything and you're not going to see them. Now you want to be where they just come to the edge of that park. You don't care. You drop them right there, right? You just got to see the bull, right? So
for the mad Canadian Steve Tucker, I don't know how many bulls I called him for that goon, but I'm telling you right now, it seemed like I could hit a call anywhere I took him, and a big bull would come rolling up on him. I mean,
absolutely,
and it was all in October.
And let's say, guys, you're not getting something to come in with a call. It's still great to have in a situation where you have an elk moving, you need to stop them. And don't forget, elk have a fatal flaw. If you booger an elk and they start to run, as soon as they get right at that tree line, they're going to stop and they're going to turn and they're going to check. And if you can throw a cow call out there, they're going to run, they're going to stop, they're going to turn, and they have that fatal flaw. So I would say a call is a great opportunity maker in all sorts of ways.
Okay? Yeah, both your bull and my bull this year did the exact same thing.
Yep. They got boogered and they ended up stopping, looking, and died. Right. So
and if I could have seen out of my peep, one would have done the same thing. I'm serious. I got to look, man. I'm gonna tell y'all right now. When I drag that Matthews back, something's gonna die. But I'm telling you, it's like somebody shoved a patch over my eyes. Like,
we're gonna call it the pirate bow.
Yeah, man. I'm like, what is going on here, man?
So.
Standing there looking at me, I'm like, oh my gosh.
We're gonna call that Helium the pirate.
Unbelievable. But yeah, I mean, I don't cow call, he don't stop. But he stopped 34 yards broadside, big as Dallas, big, just begging for it. Right here, big fella. And but
I couldn't see through my peep. I'm like, bro, quit looking through your peep. Use your eyes.
Yeah. He goes, I know Gilbert. He's gonna be working on that in camp. Can he shoot without seeing through the peep? So
absolutely.
Did a lot of work on that.
So let's talk about the subject that I always. This is number one. How do I find elk, man? So we're talking about finding elk in October, and people that have listened to us have heard us say in September, right? In September, you're using your senses, using your ears, using your eyes, using your nose, right? Ears, eyes, and nose. That's kind of how it goes for most people when they're hunting in September. They're listening for some kind of response of some kind. They're trying to then see that animal, or if that's not working, if they catch a smell, they can work into that animal. That's how we like to think about that. Well, when you go to October, you're changing from that to eyes and ears, with eyes being first. We're talking optics, man. We're talking about being where you can look for animals now. And Now, and that even changes. You're going in October from eyes and ears because you're listening for bugles and everything early on and stuff like that, to eyes and eyes and eyes and ears. Okay? So it's just really looking for those animals, using those optics, getting in places. So even though calling can still be effective during rifle season, your best friend is going to be high vantage points where you can get coverage with optics and look and look and look. Look where these animals are. If you have to and you can't make a move, look at where they bed and then make a plan for where they're coming out, because they're going to come out that way, right?
So Joe, what
And don't forget, you
prevents
got to
you?
use your wind, man.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
What prevents you from? Okay, yeah, you're hunting with a rifle, but I mean, if
Right.
you can still get in close to the animal using the same techniques as an archer would, what prevents you from doing that? Why not try to get in closer like you would with a bow?
So you don't always have the same amount of drive in October. So when I'm talking about early October, yes, I still hunt with a bow hunter mentality, and sometimes it puts me in a bad situation because it puts me in a tight situation. And you'd be surprised. Some rifle hunters, when they're zeroed in at 100, 200 yards, don't know what to do with 40 yards, man. It's like,
First of all, they want to turn everything up on 9 or 12 and they can't find the animal.
Can't find the animal,
When
right?
you're talking about a drive, it's the drive from the elk to get closer to the calling, basically?
So early on in September, they've got that rut drive really happening. That's their main focus. Now that focus is changing a little bit in October. Early on, you still have that in October. And then you're going to have it at times when animals come in. But in between that, you have a lot of these animals now that are splitting off. They're getting into recovery, right? Now they're thinking about food. So
they become less and less responsive to calls.
No, not necessarily
towards the end.
Not necessarily less responsive. Where you're hunting them is in a different place too, because they're coming out in these big parks. So it's a lot harder to get real close to them when you're out in the wide open. You can use the trees, but still, a lot of times when they're in these bigger parks, because they're feeding.
And I think it's more different about them sounding off, Luis, than us, because they've got to kind of feel it. So you might be able to hear that, and it's going to be less and less as October goes.
Got it.
There's going to be bugles in the morning because it's that cold and they feel it. They're going to bugle, and then you're not going to hear them anymore. Okay. So that drive for that part of it to be verbal is getting less and less.
Start relying more on your visuals than any talking at all.
Absolutely, man.
And finding that feed, because they're going to be feeding up, getting ready for the winter.
And being ready if something does pop off and a rut happens in your area. If that happens, man, you're in high cotton, right? Yeah. So that's something to think about. But that's why I'm saying that in September, you go from ears, eyes, and nose in that order. Ears, eyes, and nose to eyes and ears now. You're listening, but you won't really want to spot them to, as October goes, to eyes, and ears, right? So it's really about now really being someplace where you can get coverage. The key is, especially this time of year, is being able to cover a large amount of ground, because as bulls split off before they bachelor up, once they bachelor up, they're easier to find, but as they split off, they're harder to find those single animals. So it's key for you to be at vantage points where you can see down into possibly two sides, into different fingers, because let me tell you where those big bulls are feeding. If you've ever looked at a drainage, let's take a main drainage, man, that let's say you could probably drive a vehicle up that. There could probably be a road in that drainage, possibly. A lot of times that drainage will flatten out. It'll have good feed from side hills to side hills, and it might have a creek running down it. Well, that is probably a main feed area at night for elk. All right. And now I'm talking in areas that are hills. We're in Arizona where things are different. You talk about mesa country, things change a little bit, but there's still always elevations, right? And water. So where you have those areas that are wide with grass is a late feeding area. Now, if you have, when you have a main drainage, you always have what I call finger ridges that go down into the main drainage from hills down into it on each side, just the way they work. Now, in between those finger ridges are going to be smaller versions of that main drainage, bottoms with grass happening in there. And a lot of times, depending on whether that's a north side, south side, east, west, some areas are going to be greener and less dry than others. You locate those. Those are areas where there's bedding on the side of the hill, and those bulls can bed. They don't have to move very far. They can get to feed, and they can get to water within a half mile. That's what those bulls are looking for. They need to conserve energy, man. And so instead of looking for them in the big main part, you check inside those fingers, those lateral areas coming down.
You know, Luis and I hunted in the northeast part of New Mexico around.
Funny, I've been kind of thinking about that trip during the whole podcast.
It's all straight mesa country, right? Up around the Johnson's Mesa, up there. And I'm telling you, that was the wildest elk hunt I've ever been on in my life. We walked out, and you know, it was all glassing. We sit on these big ridge tops looking down into these fingers that you're talking about.
Incredible views.
And incredible views. You can see for, it felt like 100 miles you could see in places. And, you know, you just looking down and glassing these bulls, and then you make a plan. You would even glass all evening so you could make a plan the next morning on how to come out and get on those bulls. Or in the afternoon, you would find them bedded, and then you'd try to make a stalk on them depending on the wind, you know. It was really cool to hunt that way in some beautiful country.
In those areas where that water comes off, creates those drainages off that mesa country. And you can sit up on that mesa rim rock, and man, you can look right down into all of those finger ridges, and exactly what I'm talking about in between them that gets shaded before anything else, right? So, and that's where you spot those bulls. They pop out, they're eating, you know?
Pretty unassuming too. I mean, and we were with a guide, and he never, did he call any, Luis? I don't think he ever used a call.
Only to stop really weird making sounds to make him get up when they were bedded to try for me to try to get a shot.
I remember that. Yeah, for sure.
But one thing I would tell too, guys, is when I say you got to be someplace where you can cover a large amount of ground, make sure that it's not too large, that it's large enough to effectively scan. You don't want something that you can't tell what you're looking at, man. You're not going to be looking down to the, you know, way down the way on the Grand Canyon. You know what I mean? You got to be able to effectively scan an area. And all right, so where do you look? You want to look for food areas. Burns. You want to look at river bottoms. Again, not in steep flowing stuff, more where you have flatter things happening there, so that moisture can spread out. Water sources are huge this time of year. I mean, we've got fires ravaging the west, right? And it's so dry. Some of our best places were all dried up this year. So, you know, animals got to have water. So water sources are huge. And I told you the side finger ridge bottoms to main drainages, ridges with broken canopies. Any place that had, especially you guys, I'm thinking about you guys in Washington State, thinking about you guys in Oregon, where you have logging, where you've had thinning. Here in New Mexico, if it's weather torn, because we have in some places on sides of hills that'll get wind shears that just topple the pines, man.
Believe me, I've had to step over them.
Yeah, but when it topples those pines, it opens that canopy and you get more grass growing. And so those animals like to feed there. Or if there's snow on the ground, those southern slopes, when the snow flies, you know, any place where those animals can get to decent grass. And again, that's when burns are sometimes huge because of the types of vegetation that might grow taller where they can still get to food in some of those burns, okay? You talked about the full moon, Luis, before.
Yeah, I brought it up and just questioning whether or not that would have an effect, right?
So the effect really has to do with the timing of when the animals can come out and when the animals are going to go in. And if it's a full moon, you had better find those transition finger areas that I was just talking about, or transitions from bedding to feed, that you can possibly get a look at those animals and shoot them. If you're in that mesa country that Gilbert talks about, and they have oak brush on the side, sometimes you can watch where they bed and you can make a plan how to get to them, right?
Absolutely.
So those types of things. It's just that full moon is just going to shorten your amount of time that they come into open areas. Is pretty much what's going to happen.
I love what you put here on this next part, Joe. These are huge things that our rifle hunters need to hear about hunting at this time in October with their rifles.
Yeah, because guys, we always talk about finding failure points and fixing those failure points. And I just want to, as a guide, I'm going to tell you what I see as some of the most common mistakes to avoid. And this one is hard for a lot of people, because especially, man, when you've been hunting hard. But shots that are taken at last shooting light can be a huge mistake. And you might be able to get your crosshairs on that animal. If you cannot distinguish and see the points on that animal, you shouldn't be taking that shot. And the reason I tell you that is it's hard enough with an arrow that's meant to hemorrhage and create blood, that there's a lot of times you shoot an animal 200-300 yards and you're losing that daylight, and by the time you can get to where you took that shot, you've lost daylight. Now you're trying to find blood in the dark. You're not sure of the exact, especially if you're alone, you don't have anybody to help you. It is a great situation for disaster. It really is, to end up losing an animal. I've seen guys that have done that. And as a guide, there's a certain point in the evening where I call it, man, because I don't want to lose an animal. I don't want to guess where the shot hit. I want to be able to see it in my binos. I want to see if that animal goes down. I want to be able to find blood. So that's just something for you guys to consider. You got to ask yourself, how much time do I have if I hit this animal to truly be able to locate and track?
Easy to get caught up in the moment, Joe.
It is.
I think about it. I think about it not only on the rifle side. I think about it mainly on the bow side, right? I mean, there's a lot of things that you don't think about when that animal pops up and you get an opportunity. You don't think about the tracking. You don't think about the packing. You don't think about all the work that takes place afterwards. I mean, you're just thinking about the moment of getting a shot and the animal that you're captivated with. So it's a hard one, and definitely one that is something that we all need to work on.
Yeah, it's something to think about. Is there a certain point, and ask, I just want you guys thinking about this, and then telling yourself, is there a certain point in my hunt where all of a sudden that shot becomes marginal? And that a lot of times has to do with distance, as well.
Yeah.
The further away that animal is with fading light, the more marginal that becomes and more difficult in recovering that animal. So we talk about this in archery all the time. We talk about recovery being one of our goals. And as a rifle hunter, recovery is your goal. I mean, you shoot that animal so that you can recover it. So again, that's something that I want you to think about before you go out there. And when you get out there to a certain point, I mean, it says that, we have a half hour after sunset is legal shooting time. And you can take that to the last minute. But I tell you what, I've looked at animals at 200 yards in the last 5 minutes of shooting light. And I can't friggin' distinguish how many points that animal has. We shouldn't be shooting. Right? Okay.
Joe, I know you don't have much to say about this other than I'm sure you like to tell clients where to actually shoot the elk with a rifle. But shot plate, we put a lot of onus on shot placement as archers. You have anything that you want to say about shot placement with elk with a rifle? Most guys are out there hunting with a 30-06 or bigger. I think some guys might shoot a 270, but I think everybody nowadays that are hunting elk are going to shoot a 30-06 or a 300 or even a 338 or something like that.
Right. So my object with because it's a firearm is if I can, I want that golden triangle. I want to take that heart shot. I want to look at and if it's an angle take a look, go to our shop placement. If you have our academy, our base camp, your amount of shots increases with the rifle that are devastating, killing shots. And if it's a morning shot, again, that's a little different than an evening shot for me. Unless it's right there at 100 yards and I know I can heart that puppy. And now again, I don't know any of you guys is out there your shot proficiency. I hope all of you guys are just aces on that. But I've seen what happens when people get excited. I've seen what happens when you've had to run up a hill and throw that gun up. I've seen what happens when you get a fleeting moment of a shot and you don't get to get set like you wanted to. I've seen
what happens when Virulakis take over.
So when it takes over. So, all of us are rock stars at the shooting range when we're sitting on stuff, right? But when you get out there and all of a sudden you're either having to, put it on the side of a tree, on a log, or you're on shooting sticks. And that's the other thing. I have had people shoot on shooting sticks that don't practice on shooting sticks, man. And it feels weird. Same thing we tell our bow hunters, man. You practice the way you're going to play. If that means that you're out there in front of everybody and you get on your shooting sticks and you're not popping those centers, that's all the more reason for you to be shooting off those shooting sticks. Screw what everybody thinks. This is all about you and that animal and effectively and responsibly putting that animal down efficiently.
Look, that hunt that Gilbert is talking about, I took a shot day one, maybe day two, at an elk. From a shooting stick, and I never shot from a shooting stick before. And look, I don't think the shooting stick was the issue. It was my legs shaking like leaves when I was about
40-mile-an-hour crosswind he had too. I'm like, look, we can do this. We don't have to do this. If this is not something that you feel like you're comfortable with. Right. We don't have to do this.
Absolutely. So, and huge lesson learned, right? I mean, so to your point, I mean, practice the way you expect that final shot to take place and make sure that every aspect is taken into consideration. Look, with my daughters, the way I taught Sophia was in my backyard. I actually put a pop-up blind in my backyard and put a little chair and a tripod inside the pop-up blind, and we were shooting into a target, and the target was the silhouette of a hog. And I let her shoot even like later at night, just in case, darker, with a light if we're going to shoot a hog. So that way she is getting the full picture of how it's going to be. She can easily translate, okay, this is what we were doing in the backyard. This is now what I'm doing in the actual hunt.
Yeah, so you actually took things, you took from your own experiences and ensured that your daughter didn't have to go through the same thing.
Right. Yeah. Absolutely.
I would tell you the only thing that you could have done there as well is had mama and sister and uncle and everybody out there and say, watch Sophia shoot from here, just to put that little bit of pressure on her. You know what I'm saying? Just to do that.
And, we all shoot at camp. Thank God we did this year. I make sure I shoot my bow when I get to camp, especially after that first day. And if, during the first day before the first day of the hunt, we'll make sure we're on, and you guys, I can't stress to y'all enough. I can shoot my guns here in Houston and I can drive 5-6 hours to my ranch down in South Texas or West Texas. And my gun ain't going to shoot the same. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's a gravitational pull from the earth. But in Ozona, Texas, my gun, if I sight my gun in here at Carter's Country, if I sight it in here, it'll be 5.5 inches low.
Where air density is going to vary, a little bit. It doesn't hurt to kind of check it and see, if you're where you need to be.
So Gilbert's point being that, for you guys going to altitude, you had better be zeroing in when you get there, man. Shoot those guns.
Don't go hunt if you ain't shot your gun. I'd skip a half day or a morning, whatever. I mean, it's so important for you guys to have your gun zeroed in the elements that you're going to be hunting in.
especially Manano with his bow. See, my bow doesn't need that adjustment because mine is a better bow than his. But Manano, he needs a lot of practice at camp.
I've never
for
seen
sure,
him miss an animal, bro. I'm just saying.
I don't know. I have. I have.
Again, getting back to it, like I said, my gun will shoot different in Ozona. If I bring my gun back here after I've sighted it in Ozona, it'll be 3 inches high here. So it's crazy how it affects. And when you come to the ranch, you hunt with us, whether you're hunting hogs, deer, or whatever, it's a prerequisite, man. We don't let you go to the field without sighting your gun in. And some guys get a little offended, Joe. They're like, well, my gun's fine. I'm like, that's good.
Yeah.
I'm doing this for you and for me too. I want to see how you handle the rifle. I want to see your proficiency with it.
Well, not only that, okay, so
we value our animals here.
Yeah, for me as a guide, it has nothing to do with how they shoot. I'm trying to get my confidence in my person. I want to know how they shoot, know? So
makes sense.
I like it. I mean, I don't take it as an offense. I was like, oh yeah, the more times I can pull the trigger, man.
That's because you're used to always being offended. That's why, man. So
what are you talking about, dude? I'm never offended, dude. Manano's the one that's always getting offended.
All right, guys, let's go to that was great, man. I thought that was super tonight. That's a lot of content for people. So let's go to our ElkBros mailbox because Luis, you're up. I hope you're on your A game with this because we have guys, and we still have a ton of questions in our ElkBros mailbox, and I'm not sure how much we're going to chop here. We're almost to our time. We'll see what we can do, but we'll continue to chop at these questions every chance we get. We might have to go a little shorter topic next time so that we can handle that. But first up is Darren White. Kevin Orcutt, you're going to be up after that. Mike Bozarth is going to be up. Jonathan Bruce. So you guys are kind of waiting in the wings there. And I think after Jonathan, we had Joshua Bonfilio out of Oregon. Darren, you made Luis's month with this. Darren says he's from Vancouver, Washington. Good podcast. I've listened to over 1,000 podcasts, and I picked up new information from yours. That's saying something because I'm an elk knowledge sponge. Anyway, thanks for that, but I'm wondering what you think about Ashby data and the philosophy of those who apply those principles, like James Nash, basically that every dime you spend on elk hunting, from bow to clothes to tents and truck accessories, has one primary goal: to put a broadhead through the lungs of an elk. In other words, put your money into quality broadheads and arrow systems that deliver those blades, not just to an elk, but through an elk. My personal opinion is that too many people are concerned with getting that arrow to the elk, and they want an easy way to do it. That leads to choosing mechanical broadheads and other shortcuts that lead to lost elk, according to the data I've seen. It seems that best penetration that it can be reasonably achieved through the vitals is number one goal. This includes set up a system for when things don't go right due to animal movement or other factors. What are your thoughts? There's a lot in this, but
whole podcast.
But I tell you, so Darren, I'm just going to tell you, I am not the scientist of this group. I have always believed that putting a good broadhead through with a good arrow has been my goal. I have had the same system for years. I believe in fixed broadheads. I've got a buddy though that he shoots 270 to 280 feet per second with over a 500 grain arrow. He says that he can do it with a mechanical that just rips everything up. Myself, again, my philosophy is if something can go wrong, it will. So the less things that I have that can go wrong, the better. That's why I would always myself with elk go with a fixed broadhead. And I myself like a heavy broadhead, not because of science, because it's what's worked for me over the years. I use a 125 grain. I shoot a 30.5 inch arrow. I shoot about 270 feet per second with a 70-pound bow. That's about as scientific as I get. But we have the professor in the house.
The Venezuelan professor.
The Venezuelan professor, man.
You bet, Professor.
So, because Luis, I have no idea who James Nash is, and I don't know about Ashby data. So,
Take it away, Luis.
there you go.
Yeah. No, so Darren, listen, man. I ever since I started in the bow hunting, I love data. I love understanding the physics behind it. And, I started messing with my bow a lot. I went to changing my cams and trying to get more, less let off to see if I could gain more speed and more kinetic energy. And, based on my bow design, what I could get away with. And then, I got been kind of through the whole thing. And then, but there was always something that I didn't get a lot of information on the internet about, and it was like arrows. What kind of arrows that you should shoot, and how does the arrow have an effect on it? So everything that you're mentioning is, I recently stumbled upon a gentleman I work a bow shop that I usually visit, that me and Gilbert visit. There's a tech there. He's an incredible guy. Richard, he got me into this, like, hey man, you got to start looking into this stuff. And there's a guy that backs up all his research with a bunch of data. So I started looking into all of it, and it's just what they call the adult arrow, right? And it's got to do with a lot of the Ashby data. And the philosophy, as you mentioned, is, they're talking about 12 factors that drive the performance of the penetration of an arrow. And it all chives, it all makes sense, right? I mean, they talk about arrow integrity, they talk about the FOC, the forward of center, they talk about the weight of the arrow, they talk about the shape of the broadhead, they talk about the sharpness of the broadhead, and the transitions from the broadhead to the shaft. Way cool stuff, right? Okay, so if you're a geek like me, then yes, you dig all of this stuff, and think about it in these terms, right? Gilbert is you could see him in the camera laughing, and he's got his good all full metal jacket with his all broadhead. That, look, it's a system that has worked for him great in the past. I mean, he can tell you he's killed anything from elks to hogs and anything, and deer with it. He's got a great setup that works for him, and there's nothing wrong with that. Okay. I use a very similar setup to Beto's, the only difference being maybe just the length of the arrow, a little bit of draw length, and that's it. And it's worked really good for me too. I cannot say that I have not had success with it, but I like looking into things and understanding things, and if I can improve it, I will.
Yeah, I want everybody to know that Luis is an incredible engineer. I've worked with him for many years, and I'm not just saying this to have some fodder here. I'm serious business. He's an incredible engineer that understands performance-driven data is things that really drive him to understanding the way that he can do things more proficiently. And I dig that about him. We give him a lot of hell and give him a lot of hard times because he is kind of geeky about it. But at the end of the day, I'm going to benefit from it because he's going to tell me what the heck the deal is. And he knows I'm going to try it. So we love him for that. We love him that he's willing to go and do the research that we're not. And I'm being honest with you. The reason why I don't is because I'm lazy. Straight up, don't want to. I've figured out what kills animals, and
works for you.
Yeah,
Great.
It works for me. I have a lot of confidence in it, and the minute I start jacking with that confidence, I got an issue. So and I think you felt that a little bit this year, using some different setups. Your confidence got rattled a little bit.
Yes.
So this is
trying something different. Trying something different actually got me out of my comfort zone, and it was right before the hunt, and I wasn't happy with what I was seeing. I was like, oh crap, I had to kind of revert back to the same setup that Gilbert and I use, and that's what got me through the hunt. But then after that, I was like, no, I got to look deeper into this and figure this out. And look, Manano's the same way. He's like, man, I don't want to be building arrows. I want you to build my arrows, and then I'll just go and hunt with you. That's fine. So and it's that's all good.
And I'm kind of at the think that I think sometimes some people think too much. And I had the same thing with
KISS.
athletes that,
Keep it simple,
stupid. I mean, I had, when you coach high jumpers or pole vaulters, I mean, they can overthink the smallest things when really all they have to do is jump, so
Yeah, man.
at,
Indians were
and
killing elk with
A
freaking
really
cedar
good
shafts and
comparison.
flintlock
Yeah,
broadheads.
a really good comparison to me is like, hey, look, you're the rifle hunter that goes out to Cabela's or Walmart and just buys a bunch of loads
Ammo.
that work good with your rifle and just are happy with that and just kind of know your rifle really well to understand where shot placement needs to be, and that makes you effective. Then great. Yeah. I mean, and Gilbert is raising his hand, right?
Yeah.
Now, are you the guy that wants to be a hand loader, and then you want to load your own ammunition and make it perfect, and you want to go to the rifle range and you want to, find accuracy, then this is what this is about, right? You're hand loading your arrow.
I go back to the thing, to thine own self be true. And and that the things, I mean, there's a lot of reasons that people get interested in different parts of hunting, and there's certain things that really floats their boat. I mean, a lot of different, so I think that's awesome, and that's what I told Luis. I was like, have fun with it, do this, but at the same time, always keep perspective on things. It's good to know that this is the mechanical part out of it, but never take the human, because no matter what, you as an individual are the most important weapon out in those woods.
And your knowledge, like you always say.
Absolutely.
I just, the way I am is like, if I'm going to be a bow hunter, I not only want to understand the animal, which is a journey I've been on for the last few years with Joe and the team. I wanna know my bow really well, understand it left and right. And look, I'm working on my own shop here in my in my garage. I want to start working on my own bow, and then I want to build my own arrows. I mean, it's just the way I like to get into things, right? So, look, Darren, I do believe that there's good science backing all this up, and it makes sense. And I've gone all the way to drawing charts and measure speeds and targets at different distances and measure kinetic energy and momentum. And
he should be videotaping that and explaining it so we can put it on our YouTube channel. So look for that in the future, Darren.
I don't know about that. Look, it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work, right? You can spend up to an hour on a single arrow, just to get that one arrow to work perfectly the way you want it to work. But it's a cool process, and it's I just got to test it. I just got to test it a few days ago, last weekend, and on a hog, and I was pretty impressed, man. I shot through both shoulder blades on a hog and dropped it on the spot. I mean, now, was it a big hog? No. But
it's still a hog, and it has that
still
plate.
A hog. And I want to continue to try it, right? I mean, so I don't know much about it yet. I have gone through the process. I've learned a lot through the process. So if you got any questions, Darren, or anybody, feel free to hit me up on Luis at ElkBros.com. Or even, through my Instagram account,
Luis, I'm not joking about that. I think we do have people out there that would love to see you do an arrow build, that would love to see some of your tests, and see it come from the Elk Bros, man. So
and I want to get a little more wiser about it before I even start, putting something like that together.
Even the journey, though, man. The journey is part of it, man. So. Way cool.
That's the beauty of it. The journey's the beauty of it,
absolutely.
The nuts and bolts of everything. Like I said, we give Luis a hard time, and I was holding my arrow and everything, but Luis is an incredible archer. You know, he's a really good shot. He's a student of the game. You know, I've been bow hunting since I was, 11 years old. So I have a lot of years of experience, but with some really crappy equipment, man. When we were 11 years old, we had old bear whitetail tube, man. Thing was
Hey, don't be knocking the bear, bro. Don't be knocking the bear.
I mean, that thing was hard to pull back, Joe, man.
That was the beginning of everything right there,
you'd be
buddy.
shaking, your legs would be shaking like a dog trying to crack a peach seed, man, trying to get that thing back. It was so hard to draw, man. Now I killed a lot of deer with that rascal, an old Game Getter X75 and a Rocky Mountain Broadhead. I mean, we've come a long way since then. Technology's come a long way since then. And what Luis is doing is actually advancing that technology. I mean, if we didn't have technology, we'd all be riding horses still,
Yeah.
So I appreciate that about Luis.
But there's a beauty in riding a horse, and
for sure, gotta love it. You betcha.
And the only thing I tell people out there is always just this: is always you be the one in control of the weapon and not the weapon in control of you.
Yeah.
Don't let it play with your head. I mean, know it, understand it, use the tool, and make sure it works with you, because you are the main thing that makes everything.
Absolutely. Yeah. And one of the things real quick, first of all, a quick kudos to Mr. Troy, who calls himself the Ranch Fairy. I mean, he's the one I kind of been following in YouTube and getting all this stuff from. And he actually, I reached out to him on Instagram, and he kind of gave me some pointers and tips and helped me through, and even responded to some of my emails asking the questions. But it's the process of noctuning and insert tuning. It's so cool that it will actually give you an opportunity to practice your form, because you're going to shoot so many arrows, man, that you're going to put some practice in building your arrows at the same time. So
Right.
Awesome, man.
Joe, I know we got a whole bunch of other questions that are lit up there, but we're going to wait till next week to get right back on them.
Absolutely.
It'll be our 91st podcast next week. So we're creeping up on that 100, guys. Y'all be looking for, the stuff we're going to put out about the 100th podcast. It's going to be really cool. You guys, if you like what we're doing, please subscribe, rate, and review. You have to go to Apple Podcast or iTunes to review us, and you can check out more elk hunting content at ElkBros.com. Always, if this is a reminder to our listeners, if you'd like your question answered on our show, just send your questions to info@elkbros.com. That's info@elkbros.com. Again, we're growing our YouTube page. You guys go check us out on YouTube. We'll be uploading some really cool stuff. I know Joe's got a bunch of stuff from our hunt. Luis got a bunch of stuff from his. I actually went bow hunting with my son over the weekend. It opened up here in Texas, bow season. It's in full swing, and we got some funny things to show and some cool pig hunting videos and stuff like that. So it'll be something that you guys can go and see on our YouTube account. Joe, as always, unbelievable content. Luis, thank you so much again for expanding on the arrow stuff. There's going to be a whole lot more opportunity for that. We want to thank again all of our listeners out there. And as Big O says, husbands, kiss your wives. Wives, kiss your husbands. And hug your babies. Keep your broadhead sharp and your powder dry. And we'll see you next week right here on Blue Collar Elk Hunting.
Peace, peace.
Peace.
Peace, everybody.